Hey, everybody, come on in. We are excited about our live salon talk this evening. And I am here with one of our transracial adoptees, Kimberly Wehr, and she's going to be sharing her story with us this evening. I'm so excited to have you on board with us tonight.
Thank you.
This is our very first Styles for Kids Salon Talk, and this is going to be a running series that we're going to be doing for the remainder of the year, you guys, on Monday. So you don't want to miss Salon Talk Mondays. On Mondays, we're going to be having real talks with transracial adoptees, transracial adoptive parents, with stylists, on different topics surrounding hair. So you want to make sure that you tune in here on our Facebook Live on Mondays. And if you miss it, we're going to be posting those videos on YouTube. So you will have a second opportunity to see our salon talk. So if you have not subscribed to YouTube, you want to make sure you get over there and subscribe tonight so that every time one of these salon talks goes live, you'll be able to see the recording. So, Kimberly, so excited for you to be sharing a little bit of your story with us again tonight. Kimberly had the opportunity to share her story in detail at the Styles for Kids Fall Gala last fall in November. And I can tell you, Kimberly, that so many of the parents were encouraged by hearing your story. And I just want to give you another opportunity just to share with the world about your experience and how hair has affected you even as an adult growing up in the transracial adoptive community. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and get into the questions we have for you today.
Thank you. I mean, you didn't tell me this was the first one. The pressure, it's mounting.
I know.
No,
it's mounting,
thank you so
right?
much for the information. Yeah.
It's gonna be great.
Well, I'm Kimberly, and I'm so sorry. I don't know. It seems to be echoing on my end a little bit, but as she
sounds
said,
real clear on my end.
Okay. My name is Kimberly. I am a writer and a filmmaker here in Chicago. I grew up in the suburbs, so this area has been home my entire life. So I'm just really excited to be here with y'all.
Exactly. And tell us a little bit about where you grew up and what it was like for you growing up in a transracial adoptive family. So just tell us real briefly, like, how was that for you?
I guess if I had to summarize it, it was definitely an experience worth a million stories. I think that's part of the reason why I became a storyteller, just because it's not something that I can summarize into, even just a few words, but it was one of the most joyful things. I have a huge family. My parents took in a lot of children, as well as they had 2 boys of their own, and that just made for this motley crew of personalities, which is one of the best things about my life, and also one of the worst. So, I'm grateful for it in turns, but there was, on the transracial end, I can't say that there wasn't struggles, which is why I've now, as an adult, become an advocate for, foster youth and trying to educate people based off of the experiences that I've went through, and that I've kind of, heard from others along the way, just because, there's always something that can be worked on and things to learn.
Absolutely. And just share with us a little bit and be really transparent, because I think transparency is really what helps parents who are out there who may be wondering about some of these things. It really helps them to really understand from your perspective, or even from some of their kids' perspective, but maybe they just haven't really been able to verbalize what it's like growing up in a family where you're different and your hair doesn't look good. So if you could just share with us an experience, a good memory that you have surrounding your hair, whether or not it be when you were a kid and then now you're an adult, and then share also one bad memory that you have and how it's impacted you. Just share a good memory and a bad memory so we can have kind of the both ends of that. That would be great.
Okay. So I guess to put it in perspective, I want to share two good memories that I have. The first one, I remember in really stark detail the first time that I ever got my hair relaxed. It was something that I had begged my mother for, just because the reality that I lived with every day is that I wanted hair like hers. I wanted hair like my peers, which was long and straight, not nappy, as they say. And so when I got that relaxer in, and it was the first time that my hair ever hit my shoulders, I was on cloud nine. I went to school feeling myself. And I remember that the little boy that I had a crush on at the time, his name was Joe, and he was beautiful and Puerto Rican, but beside the point. Anyway, I remember exactly the compliment that he gave me, and it was one of the best days of my life. In contrast to that, I also remember my mother used to buy me an Easter Sunday dress every year. Easter is also around the time of my birthday, so it was a big time. And I would get the dress, I would get the new shoes, I would get the whole makeover. And one year, we did like micro braids with beads, and I was covered like head to toe in these white beads. And I remember feeling so wonderful and really feeling connected for the first time to, I guess, a Black identity. Like, I felt not just beautiful because I was now mirroring, my mother and my peers, but I felt beautiful for being myself, if that makes sense. And it's interesting for me as an adult to compare those two memories. And I know which one I have tried to continue to cultivate as an adult, and that's the feeling of, I feel Black, I feel beautiful, and I feel proud of, even though I don't match anybody else around me, I feel proud of that.
That is so amazing. And thank you for transparently sharing that. That's one of the things that we teach in our basic hair care class, is how important it is that the hair is part of your kid's identity, and how they look and how they feel about themselves is so critical to the process of developing their identity as an African American or African person in the world. And so it's very, thank you for sharing that, that parents need to understand that hair, and having hair that is culturally connected, is an important part of the development of a healthy self-identity for your child.
Absolutely.
And so that's one of the reasons why hair is so important. It cannot be ignored. It's part of who your kid is. And I love your story, sharing about your hair being relaxed, and that connection to really wanting to look like, your parent, in the aspect of having that straight hair, and so much of what we do as parents is modeling, what that looks like for our kids. And in your family, it was a little different, but it's important for parents to embrace that their kid is different. And it's okay for your hair not to look like mine. It's so important that those two things that you brought out, that you shared, as parents are raising their kids, you really need to be aware of how it's shaping how they look and feel about themselves, even as they go into adulthood.
Yeah, because the thing is that the relaxer, and clearly I wear a straight style now. So like, it's not that I want to encourage anybody to say that like if you wear your hair any way other than natural or braided, then you hate yourself. Like, that's not it. You know, it's the reality that your child is going to be up against a social pressure to conform, regardless of whether they like that style or not. You know, the straight hair is business professional. I'm aware of that every time I walk into an interview, you know. The straight hair is what makes the people around me comfortable. Afro hair, less so. So as an adult, I can navigate that and I can choose what I want to look like, and, you know, and it's all well and fine. But, you know, a child underneath that pressure, a lot of that can become internalized, and it's a really big struggle, and it was for me, because I remember when the relaxer, you know, you start to sweat, or, you know, it rains that day, and all of a sudden the curls and the kinks are coming back, and Joe doesn't like you so much anymore. And that, you know, that disappointment and that crushing cycle of, I will never be like the people around me. I'm not pretty. I wish I was. And, you know, that's a lot for a kid to grow up under.
Absolutely. And, you know, I believe that eventually we will have a professional America that embraces natural hair for African Americans. It's an important part of our culture. It's who we are. And we should be able to be ourselves naturally and have that embrace, even in a professional environment. Don't get me up on my soapbox, because, you know, I will go there. As a natural hairstylist, I feel like this is so critical. It's so important that we are embracing one another's differences. And part of that is allowing people to express who they are through a hairstyle, you know. So that's something that I feel very, very strongly about. Just want to quickly address that. But those experiences that you had with your family growing up, what impact has that had on you now as an adult?
Physically, mentally, emotionally, like, there's not a single aspect of my life that my hair journey didn't really impact. Physically, my natural hair is very short, and I still have like burn scars on my scalp from like relaxer treatments that went awry. Because that's the other thing, is that those are some really hefty chemicals, and in the hands of people who don't know what they're doing, they I mean, I wouldn't recommend it. A lot of people, a lot of grown women even, you know, still have a lot of hair damage from, you know, relaxer treatments.
Especially around the edges and even some of the back parts.
Yeah, no, and so, I mean, kind of tying in with, you know, a bad memory, but it's also, you know, really short, just because I would cut it so often. You know, the first instance I asked for it to be cut, I actually asked my older brother to shave it all off, and we were like 7, 8 at the time, and he cut it all off to model me to look like Michael Jordan, just because I hated it. I was just like, take it all off, Michael Jordan, he looks cool, I can look like Mike. And, you know, obviously my mother was mortified, but interestingly enough, when I got to high school, and, you know, the hair was still something that we couldn't really manage, and, you know, I wasn't really getting any better at, you know, she did try, like, you know, she would take me to different hairstylists, and there was, you know, a woman at our church and a family friend who could do hair, and, you know, she would braid it for me, but I couldn't really transfer that to upkeep at home. And, you know, neither really could my mother. So it would just end up a mess. And my mother thought it was a good compromise to just start cutting it really short. And I mean, it helped me to look presentable when we stepped out into public, but it confirmed for me in my mind that there's something wrong with you, you know, like, you're ugly, and, you know, this is the best you can do, and you're just gonna have to start wearing hats and scarves and make yourself, you know, feel better about it. And so those mental burdens and those emotional burdens, I've spent a long part of my, you know, I've spent a lot of time as an adult, like, untangling. So there really isn't an aspect of my life that it didn't touch.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that transparently. I mean, This is good. And that's one of the reasons why Styles for Kids was started, because when I connected with the shame of one of the transracial adoptees that I was serving, I said, okay, we got to do something. Like, it has to be an answer, a resource, to help parents. And so that leads me into my next question. Like, what advice would you give a transracial adoptive parent out there who's struggling, or who in some cases might even be ignoring this issue? And when I say ignoring, I mean they know it's an issue, but there's so many other issues that this issue kind of gets pushed to the back burner. So what would you say to that parent who's really just trying to figure out how to navigate through the importance of this particular issue?
Well, first of all, I would just want to encourage them, like, off the bat, this journey, like the journey of bringing any child into your family, regardless of their race or, their color, is huge. And there's so many trials and there's just so much that goes into that, I just want to commend that effort. And above all, we want to be supportive. It's not about tearing anybody down or saying you're not doing a good enough job, because it's one of the toughest jobs in the world, But
and parenting is hard enough.
Hard enough. So,
oh my God.
With that said, though, like, I wish it was different. I wish it really was just hair. You think, like, what is the big deal of all the things to tackle? Like, why does it matter so much? But the world is the way that it is, and people are the way that they are. And I dare even say that, like, especially for female children, like, it's never just hair, So, right. Like, there's no
male or female. It's never just hair.
Right. It's never just hair. So, and especially for Black hair in the Black community, especially, for Black women, quite honestly, like, how you wear your hair, it tells people who you are. It tells them who you want to be. It tells them where you're going. Like, it says so much. Like, it's such a cultural statement. And if you don't invest the time to help your child really learn, number one, how to take care of it, just in a health sense. Everybody wants healthy hair. Everyone wants to feel like their scalp is healthy, and that, they can kind of choose to style it, after that. If you don't take the time to invest in that journey, then they're going to have to do it themselves, regardless. Like, the journey is going to be had, and it is going to be so much rougher than if they have that guiding influence telling them and helping them shape their worldview about how they look. Because either the world.
Would you agree with the fact that sometimes you're going to have to make a decision to place yourself in situations where you're uncomfortable?
Absolutely.
So that you can get the information that you need. And I understand, there are certain cultural barriers, especially here in Chicago, but the point is that sometimes we have to be willing to do the uncomfortable to make it better for your child in the long run as they're becoming an adult. Because guess what? They're going to be operating in the world as an African-American person.
Absolutely.
Or an African person. And when people look at them, they're going to see that's a Black man. Mm-hmm. That is a Black woman. That is an African person.
Yeah.
So, and they're not going to be looking at the fact that they grew up in a home where their parents were of a different race when they go on a job interview.
Yeah.
What I'm saying?
I just recall my college experience. Like, number one, I don't think people saw. If you caught me without a hat on my head or a scarf, like, we were intimate, we were friends. Two, and number two, like, when I did, approach someone with my natural hair, one of the first things I explained to them was, I grew up, in a white family, and it was very much the shield I used to explain why I looked a mess, and God bless her. But I still remember one of my, first Black friends in college. I said that, and she was like, that is no excuse for you not to know how to do your own hair. So we're going to sit down and you're going to learn how to do your hair.
Well, hats off to her.
Right. So, and,
being a real friend.
I was really to have a real friend and to find a group that would help me on that journey. But like you said, your child, regardless of what family they grew up in, is going to have to walk in the world as a Black individual, and they can either come at it with a strong foundation, built up by you, knowing that they're loved, knowing that, hey, we're in this together. It may not look perfect, but we're gonna figure it out, and we're gonna learn together. And regardless, I love you, you're beautiful. Or they can kind of journey out there and see what the world tells them, which I don't recommend.
Absolutely. And this is I just want to mention that this is a growing issue in our country and even our world. When we have more multiracial families, out there where, we have biracial families, you have multiracial or multi-ethnic families, you have transracial adoptive families, you have families who are fostering kids of different races. And so it's very important to make sure that you're culturally aware, of what is culturally acceptable for hair. And so that's why we're having this conversation. Thank you so much, Kimberly, for sharing very transparently with us today your experience. And I just want to I also want to jump on the bandwagon of encouragement and say to you parents out there who might be struggling that's why we're here. That's why help is available. That's one of the reasons why Styles for Kids was created, because we want to be a resource for you. And so we're putting more resources online to be able to help you like this. We also have our Q&A we're going to be doing once a week. In addition to our YouTube page, you want to make sure you subscribe, you're watching the videos there, because I know there's a lot of information on YouTube about doing hair. And so you want to make sure that you're tuned in to our channel, because we're trying to do it from the perspective of a family who is of a different race, who's trying to navigate through these things and understand how to help their child even better. And so we just encourage you to stay connected to our community. We're going to be putting more resources out there. Kimberly's going to be helping us. And I want you to talk a little bit about your project that you have that's coming up.
Happy to. Mm-hmm. So I am, as I said when I started, I am a writer and a filmmaker. And a while back, I decided to start developing a pilot for a television series surrounding, my life experience, really. I really wanted there to be a family on television that mirrored mine growing up, and the journey of a transracial adoptee, which, when I tried to think about, like, do I know any characters like that? I kind of came up dry. So, in the spirit of being the change you want to see, I wrote the pilot about 2 years ago now. And since then, have been cultivating that, and we shot a little bit of it last year. And we're right now in the middle of our festival season. And super proud of it. You can follow us, please, at Victory Series.
Follow her. Yeah. Say that one more time.
VictorySeries.com.
VictorySeries.com. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be good, you guys. And we, of course, just want to support Kimberly and what she's doing. So thank you to all you parents out there who need help. We do have our online consultations, and we also have our online training that we're putting up. We got 2 classes taking place this week. So I'm really excited for those parents that have signed up for that. And we're just going to keep it going. We're going to keep those resources out there. We are in the midst of a crisis, but it doesn't matter because hair still needs to be done. So we encourage you to get the help that you need in this season. We're here to help you. We're just a phone call away. We're just an email away. And thanks again to Kimberly for joining us. And we look forward to seeing all the good stuff that you're going to be doing that's going to be out there for us to follow.
Anytime. Thank you so much.
Okay. Take care, you guys.
God bless.
Bye.